The Steve Lobby Agency presents the Christian Publishing Show, a podcast for writers who want to advance Christ's kingdom using the written word. Here's your host, Thomas Umstattd Jr.
Publishing is a mysterious process for a lot of writers. Even authors who've been in this for a long time often have a lot of questions. So we're going to start a new kind of recurring episode on the Christian Publishing Show where we bring in publishing professionals from various parts of a publishing company to tell us about what they do and how it affects you as an author. And today we are being joined by a certain role, Director of Operations. And joining us today is Bradley Isbell. He's the Director of Operations for Ironstream Media, who you can catch doing CrossFit or headed to Walt Disney World when he's not on a mission trip to Zambia or the Dominican Republic. Bradley, welcome to the Christian Publishing Show.
Hey, Thomas. It's great to be with you today.
So what exactly do you do as Director of Operations?
So, a lot of people around the office call me Yoda. That has become my name over the years at several different publishing companies. Sort of a jack of all trades. If I don't know the answer as someone in operations, I am searching to find the answer, fix problems. You never know what a day is going to look like. Helping a customer, helping our owner, helping one of our publishers. It is a problem solver. That is what I do constantly as Director of Operations.
And your publishing house, Ironstream Media, which does, and we'll get into what you publish here in a second, you have an owner, CEO role kind of above you, and then you're the person who kind of handles all of the day-to-day operations. Is that how it works?
Exactly. Yeah. So John, I've actually been with John for about 10 years now. We started at Student Life, where our first brand came from. They did summer camp and they started creating Bible study curriculum. So John and I have been together through several owners, several iterations of the company. But we've been able to work together and sort of work out a relationship where we help and figure out things together. But yeah, I serve alongside our CEO.
And so basically everyone reports to you in the sense that you're the boss of the editorial team and the marketing team and all of the other teams. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes. And plus our customer service and our sales team, they all funnel through me. And then I work with John to make sure we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's.
Yeah, and I think that actually would be an important thing to underline. You said sales team, and I think a lot of people don't realize what it is that publishers sell and who they sell to, because this is, I think, the biggest differentiator between a traditional publisher and somebody who's going indie is the presence of a sales team. So what is a sales team and what do they do?
Yeah, so we, at Ironstream are lucky just because of our history. We've always maintained a strong connection to the consumer directly, as well as churches, just some of our Bible study curriculum we've created in the past. So we have an entire database of direct customers that we reach out to. We have a sales team here in our office, but we also work through our distributor, Baker & Taylor. They have a sales team that represents us to our retail stores. And our distributors, CBD, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of those are represented by Baker & Taylor. So we're managing sales from two sides. We need it to happen directly to the consumer and the church. But also in bookstores, and that's a different type of relationship. A lot of long-term work, getting resources in front of buyers early. So, sales team working from both ends, but both very important for a book to be successful.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? If a church is going to order 500 copies of your curriculum or of your book, that's worth a phone call. That's worth a little bit of outreach, especially if they're going to order another 500 copies, next year and so on. And that's a lot of labor, like human labor, of building those relationships, talking to people on the phone, which is different from advertising.
Exactly. Yeah. That is what it's not uncommon for a sales call here in our office, talking to a church to last 20 to 30 minutes because we're building a relationship. What resource is going to work in their setting? Are they reaching students that need a book about sexual purity, or are they looking for something on the Old Testament, something, very basic? those are special relationships that it takes time to build. And then our the retail store, it's just, this author has contacts, this author has a goal, a marketing plan in place, and we think you can move books. So both very different, but both very important.
All right. So walk us through a typical day. I know every day is different, but like what happened yesterday? Like, are you going from fire to fire? Like, walk us through a normal day for director of operations.
Yeah. So if fire to fire, some days, those are those days. Right now, I'm spending a lot of time on our catalog. So this is an important time of year. We're working on our catalog for 2019 that will go out not only to our direct customers, but to our retail stores. So this will be what people are looking at to see what we're releasing over the next year. So spending a lot of time with our marketing team, making sure that has all the information in it. Like I said, jack of all trades. I have sort of self-taught InDesign and Photoshop. So I'm able to get in there and sort of help with some basic stuff in the design. I'm definitely not a designer, but text and some things like that I can handle. Also working over the past few days in our royalty system, just getting ready for the new year. We pay royalties twice a year, so making sure that's set up. Believe it or not, authors like to be paid. So that is an important part of the job as well. And this time of year, we get to work on taxes. So that's another fun part of the job.
Fun, exciting things in the day of life of a director of operations.
Yeah, taxes. It is important. You do need to pay your taxes.
I do want to underline actually the catalog, because this is another thing that's unique about traditional publishers is the existence of a catalog. I mean, when you say catalog, you're not talking about a euphemistic catalog of like list of books on your website. You're talking about an actual physical catalog that you put in the hands of bookstore buyers, right? So the buyer of Lifeway is going to get a physical copy of your catalog, as well as all the churches that, have a church bookstore in the coffee shop, which is actually a huge sales channel. Like I remember when I was in college, I bought a lot of church books at the church bookstore, like, because those are the ones that were like vetted and approved by my pastor. And so I spent a lot of money there. And that's what you're doing with this catalog. You're putting it in the hands of those kinds of buyers. Is that right?
It's exactly. So just talking specifically about church bookstores, how important that is with Baker and Taylor, our distributor. We also work through them with Noble Sales Group. And so constantly they're hitting your hometown Christian bookstore, but they're also hitting those church bookstores. And that catalog sets us apart. Not every publisher is going to do that. They may rely on their distributor's catalog and sell sheets, but if they can leave a piece of Ironstream media at the bookstore, that sets us apart, and it sets your book apart. So we think it's an important part of our business to have us provide a believe behind piece that points out why a book is important. We're sort of connecting it to other resources we might have. So a bookstore owner can see this is part of something bigger. This is a reason I want to put this book on my shelf for my customers.
And brick and mortar bookstores, with the notable exception of Amazon's brick and mortar stores, still in general make decisions off of paper catalogs, which I guess makes sense since they're selling paper books, that they continue to use paper so vigilantly.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not always a quick process. That's something that I've learned over the years. Bookstore owners are not making a decision today for tomorrow. They're making a decision today for 9 months down the road. So it's important. Just talking about scheduling, that's another part of my job. Is we're looking at making sure books are ready and we're putting them in seasons where we have time to work, get the books where they need to be, the actual printed books, but also making sure that marketing collateral and marketing plan and the author is ready to help those bookstores promote. So it's a long-term plan for each book to make sure it's successful.
All right. One of the things I like about your role is I can ask you about basically any aspect of the publishing business. So I'm going to kind of skirt across a lot of topics here. We'll bring in specific people in the future who will dive deep on sales and dive deep on catalog. But I think you're the ideal person to kind of kick off this new series. So I want to change directions a little bit and talk about working with vendors. This is one of the decisions I mentioned you have to make a lot. Like, what things do you do yourself? What things do you work with vendors? And what criteria do you make to determine, oh, yes, we're going to work with this distribution company instead of doing distribution ourselves?
Yeah. So, some of our previous owners did distribution themselves to the retail side. And that did not always include a sort of a sales team, sales representation. And that is one thing that we have loved about Baker & Taylor. They have partnered with us. They're representing us every few months at all the big chains, Barnes and Noble. We actually are doing some presenting to Mardell and Hobby Lobby and other retail outlets. But that sort of partnership aspect is one of the big things that went into us choosing Baker & Taylor. And that was not a quick decision. We met with multiple distributors to figure that out. Part of it is also sort of cash and revenue, figuring out what is going to be best for us, but what is also best for the author, making sure that, if a book is dinged, 40% by the distributor on top of what we've already had to sell it to a retail outlet for, the author is getting hit by that. So we want to make sure the author is making what they should when their books sell into retail stores. So that's an important part. The next biggest vendor that I deal with is our print partners, making sure books are getting printed. And that a lot of the time, it depends on how many we think a book can sell. We'll sort of decide, does this book need to be printed overseas to get a good price? Can this be printed in the United States? Timeline, that'll determine. We have multiple vendors across the country that help us print. And it all depends on the type of book. Some people are good at perfect bound. Some people are good at hardback. But also looking at that price, who can get stuff done in a timely manner with quality that we like. And even over the past year, there's been book, people that have printed for us that we're like, we like you, good relationship, but the quality is just not there. And we're wanting to make sure that people, first enjoy the book, the content, but their book does not need to fall apart. We need to be happy with the quality. Making sure that the books are at a good price, but also high quality is when we work with vendors. That's important.
Yeah, one of the things I know a lot of people, this is a question for all businesses, right? I mean, I remember studying this in business school, build versus buy, right? When do you build it yourself and when do you buy a solution from another company? And you're looking at the cost, right? Because building it yourself is always way more expensive than you think it's going to be, because learning how to do something is very expensive.
Exactly. Just thinking about sort of outsourcing and then in-house, we're lucky just with our editorial team and design team that we've been able to have in the office. There's a lot of stuff we can do here. Book covers, we're able to do full mechanicals, that full back cover and spine. There's things we can do, our marketing, copy editing. We have all those tools here in the office. But now as we continue to sort of grow our business, we're figuring out, what man hours, what is it worth sending out instead of learning? And then what do we need to keep in the office? So it's always a balance, making sure we're utilizing the resources we have at 100% capacity, but also not straining. And if there's something that makes sense to send out, that they know how to do it, they can do it cost effectively instead of us spending resources here. That's an important part of making sure that we're getting as many books out as possible, but also taking care of our staff.
Yeah, which is good. And before you think, every publisher should do everything in-house, just remember, you don't grow your own wheat. You don't make your own clothes. This is the essence of modern civilization, is different people doing different things and staying in their expertise. So it's not always a good idea to do something yourself. Sure, you could grow potatoes in your backyard, chances are there's something else you can do that will get you a better return on your time. I do want to talk about this mysterious thing that many authors are terrified of, pub board. What is pub board, and what is a pub board meeting like?
Yeah, so for us at Ironstream, pub board is, I'm going to call it a process. So we have kind of thought about what this is. It's not a one-day thing. It's our pub board normally involves Ramona Richard. She's our associate publisher. All of our submissions sort of feed through her. And we have sort of a brand identity that we are seeking to sort of stick to, and all across our imprints that we sort of produce products under, we're looking for stuff that fits into our Ironstream identity. So Ramona will go through our submissions, and then when she finds something, it'll go to Reagan, who's our copy editor, but also sort of acts as one of our first readers. And she'll tell us, is this worth it? Is this something that we should discuss as a team? So about once a month, we will actually pull together 3 to 4 submissions that we think have potential. We'll hand those around a select group of the team. I, as operations, am lucky enough to be on that as well. So I read a lot at home. I don't have time to do it here. Submissions, and then we'll gather as a team and first talk about the content of a book. Is this something that we agree on that could fit into what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish? And then we look at the author, sort of what platform do they have? Are they willing to engage with us in a marketing plan? And then we decide sort of, does this book have ancillary resources that could be created around it? We have history of creating Bible study content around books. So is there potential to grow this author in new ways? And if at that point we agree as a team, this is something that we'd like to pursue, we start reaching out to the agent or the author and pursue a contract. So it's we go through a lot of submissions, making sure not every book is going to fit with us. We have multiple imprints that we're able to place books under. That doesn't always mean they're going to fit. That it's something we want to pursue. Doesn't mean that the book is bad. It may be picked up the next day from another publisher. You never know. But we're looking for things that sort of gel with what we're trying to accomplish at Ironstream.
Yeah, I want to underline that because I think if you weren't listening carefully, you may have missed it. Bradley is on the pub board, which means he is one of the people who has to say yes to your book as the director of operations. So often as an author, it's very easy to be so focused on winning over the editor and so focused on winning over the agent that you forget the other people on that team. So it's marketing people, sales people, it's people like Bradley, kind of the suits, if you will, although Bradley seems like a pretty nice guy. But in the room, right, you're the boss. You're the one who, signs the checks potentially or helps make hiring and firing decisions along with the owner. And you have a lot of weight, right? Like if you say no to a book, that book doesn't get published.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would say, from the leadership standpoint, but also that marketing sales team, those are probably the two most important decision makers on if a book is picked up with us. If a book does not have potential and an author is not willing to engage with us and be a partner to make sure their book succeeds, and that they're reaching out on a bare minimum social media, but also willing to engage with events and engage with their readers and launch teams. If an author is not willing to do that at the beginning and sort of tell us what their plans are, that's almost an immediate, this is just not going to work, because we're looking for people that are going to partner with us. You can be that doesn't mean you have to speak and do events constantly. So some authors, maybe you're an introvert, that's okay. But you have to be willing to share your message. I send out author updates a lot when I do royalty statements. One of the biggest things I always say is you are your book's biggest advocate. We are going to help you get the book to where it needs to be. We're going to sell it and give them marketing plans and ideas of way to stage this in their store. But if you as the author don't love your work and want to share it and be passionate about it, we're going to have issues. So an author is their biggest advocate of their own book.
Yeah, no other phrase has killed more book proposals, perhaps, than the phrase from the marketing person or the salesperson, I don't know how to sell this, or I don't think this will sell. Because there's no rebuttal that the editor can give, right? The editor's in love with the book and it's like, this is an amazing book. And the marketing person says, I don't think this will sell. There's no rebuttal editor, but it's so beautifully written. That's not an effective rebuttal. And if you want to learn innovative ways of selling more books, I have another podcast. I'll give it a plug real quick, called the Novel Marketing Podcast. You can find it at novelmarketing.com, and it's all about what works and what doesn't when it comes to book promotion. So I encourage you to check that out. It's one of the oldest book marketing podcasts on the iTunes store. We've been around since 2014, I think. So anyway, I encourage you to check that out because it really does matter. Even if you are planning to traditionally publish, your platform really does matter. Bradley, I want you to tell us a little bit about Iron Stream Media. What kind of authors are you looking for, and what kind of books do you print? And kind of walk us through your imprints real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. So Iron Stream actually has a long history, several owners. John Herring's our current owner. And like I said, John and I have worked together for almost 10 years at several different companies. Iron Stream was started out of student life camps in Birmingham, Alabama, did summer camp since the 90s. And in 2004, had a passion to start Bible study curriculum. We had youth pastors that enjoyed camp, enjoyed that experience, and then we were looking for ways to engage with them throughout the year. So Student Life Bible Study was started. And then from that, Life Bible Study was started for adults. So out of that, we were able to sort of get the publishing and the content creation process under our legs. And in 2010, we actually that part of the company was purchased by NavPress and the Navigators, part of Tyndall now. And in 2013, John, who had worked with Student Life in the past in NavPress, actually was able to purchase Student Life and Life Bible Study. And we set that back up under Iron Stream Media, a new company sort of seeking to create new content for churches. Our first sort of print publishing job, for trade was a Bible that we created with a ministry called Time to Revive. They do revival events all across the country. It's a special little Bible with tabs on it. And from that, we sort of started learning the publishing process. So it's been really self-taught. We have brought experts alongside us. And that's where we are today. In 2017, we actually were able to purchase New Hope Publishers, which is really what got us into the trade business, into retail stores.
So I'm gonna stop you real quick because you just used some jargon that I think it's important for us to explain. What is the trade business? What do you mean by the trade?
Yeah, so the trade business would be your traditional bookstores, your Amazon, your Barnes & Noble. Instead of going directly to the church and to the consumer like we do, if we were just to sell a book on New Hope Publishers, that would be fine, or Iron Stream Media. But we are placing books out into the general marketplace. So there may be a book that gets picked up by Walmart. We'd love that. Sam's Club, you never know. But getting them in those general bookstores and making books available out to the market.
And that's as opposed to selling curriculum or kind of more specialty type works.
Exactly, which we still love doing. We have a writing team that works with Life Bible Study. We're actually working on some projects now through that brand that will not hit your bookstore, but they'll be available through other venues. We're really good. We've sort of mastered that process, and since 2004, we have thousands and thousands of churches that have used our curriculum. So that's an important part of our business, but not isn't necessarily hitting the bookstore shelf.
Right. A bookstore only has room for so much curriculum, and a lot of successful curriculum is very focused. So it's focused around a certain denomination or a certain, non-church organization, or like Young Life, right? It's a huge organization. And if they rolled out a curriculum to all of their students, that's a lot of purchases, but not purchases that would happen through a Lifeway or through at Amazon.com. So that makes a lot of sense. Any other imprints that you have?
Yeah, so this year we're starting several new imprints. New Hope Publishers and Life Bible Study are still our two legacy brands, but we're discovering that as we grow and sort of continue to receive more and more submissions, we're seeing books that we love, but may not necessarily fit in that traditional New Hope brand. New Hope has been around for decades, was a part of the Women's Missionary Union, connected to the Southern Baptist Convention. So it has a look and feel that not all books are going to fit into. Great resources, lots of resources for women, but we're discovering that we want to be able to publish different things. So this year we're launching something called Iron Stream Books that is more of a looking for a broader audience, millennials, looking at leadership topics, spiritual growth, but for that broader 21st century audience. And that is where we're able to pick up some different types of books. And that's the importance of an imprint. We're able to publish different things, but also keep that identity that we find in Proverbs 27:17 about iron sharpening iron. We're able to continue our focus on discipleship and providing resources for all readers, but with different types of books. It doesn't have to be a Bible study. It doesn't have to be a romantic novel. It can be really anything, but if it ties back to our identity, it's something we can publish through any one of our imprints.
Ah, those mysterious millennials. As a millennial myself, I used to have a recurring segment on a local Christian radio station, like explaining and defending millennials. The host would bring me on and be like, what about this? Blah, 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 millennials. And I have to try to defend my whole generation. It was quite the experience, but it was what got me my start in radio. So that's something.
It is an important group. I'm a millennial, obviously. It's always a learning process. What are we looking to create? What does a millennial want? So we spend a lot of time looking at research. I'm working through last year's Barna research on millennials, just sort of figuring out what am I? I need somebody else to tell me what I want. And so that's important. We spend a lot of time looking at the resources and submissions that are coming across our boards to decide what do we need to publish and where does it fit.
At some point, I'm going to definitely do an episode on writing for millennials, because I think it's important to understand the similarities and the differences of that generation. Real quick, we're almost out of time, but I want to ask one more question. We used another jargon word I realized we probably should explain for our newer listeners, and that is imprint. What is an imprint?
Yeah, so an imprint is just a different brand or identity that we use under our parent company, Iron Stream. So we create a completely different brand with an identity that uses our same team internally, our same marketing processes, sales processes, but it's a way for us to sort of position a book in front of a different type of audience, somebody that may be hesitant to pick up, say, a New Hope book that in the past, New Hope has been primarily female, traditional. Doesn't mean there's not men's books there, but has sort of I don't want to say a stigma, that's bad, but has a look and feel. We're able to place a book in front of a different market where maybe it doesn't have that look and feel of a different brand of New Hope. We're able to create that resource for. I'll mention Ascender. That is one of the brands imprints that we're starting this year. It is going to be really developed more for the spirit-led community, sort of looking at spiritual warfare, study of scripture, just a different type of resources that would have never been published in the past under New Hope or one of our other imprints. So it's a way to position ourselves in front of customers in different ways.
It's like another product line or brand from the same company, just like McDonald's partly owned Chipotle for a while. So a health conscious customer who would have never walked into a McDonald's would have been very happy walking into a Chipotle to get some locally grown produce.
Exactly. And have they learned? Did they learn from each other? I don't know yet.
Well, but it's about, different strokes for different folks, right? Like different people are wanting something different. A McDonald's buyer's wanting exactly the same experience every time, which you cannot get with fresh produce, right? So, whereas a Chipotle person doesn't care if the lettuce, tastes a little different because it came from Farmer Brown's field as opposed to Farmer Smith's field, right? They love that, the variety. So in that sense, people are looking for different things, and Imprints with a publisher allows you to use the same kind of skilled team to reach different markets, almost speak different languages to different communities.
Exactly. And we want them to eventually know that. So to see these imprints are coming from Ironstream Media, and they create quality resources. And so even if I'm only going to pick up an Ascender book, or only I'm going to pick up a New Hope book, I know they're coming from a dedicated team that is intentional about what they're creating, and are going to continue to create serious resources that have excellent quality. So it may be something new, look different, but it comes from Ironstream, so it's quality, and that's what we're seeking to do.
There you go. All right. So tell us about your new podcast.
Yeah, so we have just launched the Ironstream podcast. It's a way for us to let listeners connect to our authors in a little bit different way. So each season, as we release books, we're going to be releasing episodes from our authors, talk a little bit about their new book, but also what is their passion, what they're seeking to do, what they're doing ministry-wise, and just what they're passionate about. Our first episode was with Randy Hemphill. It's out, available from your favorite podcast provider right now. But Randy, his new book, The Restored Man, just looks at the restorative process that men can go through in their relationship with God. And he talked about that. Randy's passionate about men's ministry, but has done a lot of cool things too. He's hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. He likes to talk about that, restoring cars. So Randy's a fun guy, but we're hoping this is just a new way for people to engage with our authors and potentially sell a new book or two.
All right. We will have links to that podcast in the show notes. So if you just scroll down in your app, you can tap to go straight to the website for that podcast. We also have a link to Ironstream's website where you can see the kind of books they publish and also see their submission guidelines. If, as Bradley's been talking, you'd be like, ooh, this sounds like a publisher that I think I may have a book for. They have their guidelines on what they're looking for and how to submit there, as well as Bradley on Twitter, if you want to follow him there. And very briefly, we have our sponsor today is the Christian Writers Institute, and our course of the week is the Legal Bundle. This is actually a bundle of several different courses that help you with the kind of legal side of publishing. So do you need an agent? How to handle ghostwriting and collaboration, like how to handle that relationship, but also how to handle that legally, understanding copyright law, a whole session on the book contract, and more. And as always, you can save 10% on checkout. You've been listening to the Christian Publishing Show with Thomas Umstattd and Bradley Isbell. Bradley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to be with you.
Thank you for listening to the Christian Publishing Show. For more information and to get episodes delivered to your phone automatically, visit christianpublishingshow.com.